Welcome in, fight fans. Sean O'Connell, Dan Hardy. This is DAZN MMA, talking about all things combat sports. And whether you like them or not, crossover fights are here to stay. Freak show fights are here to stay. Kickboxer versus boxer, MMA fighter versus boxer, boxer trying to dabble in mixed martial arts. It's not going to stop, okay? And I don't want it to stop. I think this is one of the most enjoyable sidelines or side stories in the combat sports world. So Dan Hardy, an interesting question was brought to our attention. How can you really even the playing field? If we're talking about like a high level proposed contest, right now Francis Ngannou is a free agent talking about fighting one of the best heavyweight boxers in recent history, heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. How do you even the playing field so what Francis is good at and what Tyson Fury are good at kind of meet in the middle? Even Fury seems willing to listen to some, glove changes, maybe some rule changes. I put Dan Hardy in charge of making this a viable contest. It's not just boxing, and obviously it's not just MMA. Where do you meet in the middle, Dan Hardy?
Well, I think we do it in a cage because I think it's important that the fighters can't lean back over the ropes. That's something that I feel that Adesanya got away with against Pereira a few times, but he didn't get away with it in the MMA fight. I feel like a hard barrier will take away some of the rope-a-dope skills that Tyson Fury will use against Ngannou. I also feel like we have to have the small gloves, and my preference would, of course, be the 4-ounce gloves. A good wrap underneath and a good 4-ounce glove. It will protect their hands, but they'll be able to clinch and grapple and punch on the inside. And I think ultimately we can do clinch work to the upper body only. We don't need to do any takedowns or any other unnecessary grappling, but I certainly think some clinch work, some body locking, some overhooks with strikes, there's nothing wrong with that. A little bit more time in the clinch to work, I mean, obviously, like we see it in Thai boxing compared to K1. In K1, you can grab once to strike and then you have to release. Whereas in Thai boxing, you can grab and you can hold and you can work with the clinch. I think that would be a really interesting, kind of a meet in the middle. And someone like Tyson Fury as well. Some boxers wouldn't want to allow that. Like when Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, they brought in a special referee that didn't allow any real clinch work. So McGregor knew that he was going to have to fight a clean boxing match. But as soon as a fight becomes dirty, well, I mean, Randy Couture, our colleague on the broadcast, he was a pioneer of dirty boxing. And it's not dirty, it's clinch boxing. There's nothing dirty about it. It's very effective. I think allowing some of that would be really, really interesting. And I honestly think Tyson Fury would be the perfect person to make that transition over. Some kind of hybrid rules where Tyson can grab and hold and strike. He'll look like an MMA fighter in the clinch, in my opinion.
I think that's the path of least resistance. And I think that Tyson Fury is the right boxer to embrace it. And Floyd Mayweather's not going to allow that, right? And he's older and only doing exhibition matches now anyway. We're talking about, you've heard Conor McGregor proposing bouts with people like Manny Pacquiao, again, a little over the hill, past the prime. Canelo Alvarez, somebody like that. We talked in our last meeting about, Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis, maybe trying to explore some MMA stuff. It's not realistic for a boxer, a lifelong boxer, to think that in a year's time or 2 years' time or even 3 years' time, they can establish enough of a grappling base, a wrestling base, a takedown defense base to truly compete in mixed martial arts. And I actually give credit to high-level boxers for acknowledging this and knowing this and realizing I don't have to step out of my world to meet these MMA guys. MMA fighters are willing, they sometimes overestimate our own striking skills, right? And say, yeah, I can box with a boxer. And then anyone who spent time as an MMA striker, and then you go and you box against real boxers and you don't have any of that clinch work that Dan Hardy's talking about, you can't kick the legs, you can't take them down, it truly is a different world. So I give credit to the professional boxers who have at least dabbled and explored the idea of competing against mixed martial artists for knowing what their skill set is and trying to keep things in their realm. But there absolutely is a way that you can bridge the gap. And for some of the people, like leg kicks change the dynamic for a boxer completely. Obviously, you can't allow leg kicks. No boxer is going to agree to leg kicks. But do you think you could get a professional boxer to agree to kicks at all, where as long as the kick lands above the waist, right? body kicks, head kicks are allowed. Leg kicks, knees, that kind of thing is not. Boxers are used to defending their head and their body from punches. Do you think you could get a boxer to embrace the idea that it's almost kickboxing, but not quite, because the lower quarter of the body is still off limits to attack?
I think you go in the right direction. I think most boxers, their stumbling point would be the low kicks, because it's an easy attack that really stifles a lot of boxers, and regardless of the boxer's style. I mean, a good hard low kick to an unconditioned, unprepared leg is as debilitating as a good body shot. I think it would be easier to convince them to take kicks to the body as opposed to elbows and knees, though. Again, like, boxers are used to fighting with a big pad around their hands. The idea of getting hit with a bony elbow or a bony knee, it could be quite repellent to some boxers. Like, again, and because there are so many different styles of boxing, I think it really depends on who. Like, you're not going to get Pernell Whitaker to fight, a style like a Pernell Whitaker to fight close range, but someone who's like a Bernard Hopkins would embrace a close range fight. Same as a Julio Cesar Chavez, close range, gritty, in your face all the time. But Lomachenko wouldn't want to fight with any kind of clinch work, especially if you're going to take away his movement. So I think some boxers are more predisposed. Like even James Toney, I don't think he'd like to work from the clinch either. And he did make the transition to mixed martial arts. I think he's far more of a long range defensive boxer to really want to be fighting in the clinch with that kind of nastiness. It really is down to the individual boxer. I think some people have got a better style for that than others, but no boxers are taking kicks to the legs. You kick a boxer one time in the leg, and most of them will feel nauseous because they've never felt anything like it. It's a very, very different sensation to anything else that you'd experience. And because their legs are so important to them for movement, you take that away, and their upper body might not be functioning quite as well.
These conversations have been happening for decades now, right? How do you meet in the middle? How do you compete in one martial art versus another martial art? That's how MMA came about. The reason this conversation is particularly salient right now is because you have world ranked boxers, heavyweights, that are willing to entertain crossover ideas. And you have a former world champion heavyweight in Francis Ngannou, who's a free agent who wants to fight some of these big name boxers. Now is the time that you can seize the moment, create a hybrid rules fight that people will actually want to see, that people will actually want to buy, whether it's Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. Francis Ngannou is the guy right now that can make this happen, and we can start answering some of these questions. What works? What doesn't for hybrid rules? I want to see it. I want to see smaller weight classes embrace it. I want to see Canelo Alvarez fighting a hybrid rules fight against a mixed martial artist. I want to see Tank Davis do it. I want to see it all. I do want to see Lomachenko now that you mentioned him, but he would never agree. See, Dan Hardy's bringing up stuff that now leaves me wanting. And now we have to have a hybrid rules fight, me and Dan Hardy. That's how it works.